G'day, Mark Motion Angler here. I'm a super keen softbait fisherman, as most of you know, and over the years I've found that it really pays to have the right lead heads. I was fishing with Paul Senior and he'd just brought them in and he was catching one after another and I was really struggling. It was in quite shallow waters, it was quite dull, and as I say, he was probably getting 5 to my 1, which generally doesn't happen. It's I won't tell you what it's normally like, but yes, it's normally a bit more competitive. And I said, "What's going on, mate?" And he goes, "I wasn't going to tell you, but it's these new jig heads that I've got, mate." And he showed me them, the light bulb. And the only difference that these had really in those days was that it had a UV reflective finish. We can't see it because only the fish can, but that there shines just like it says, like a light bulb, especially when it's those dull conditions, because of course UV light isn't stopped by the clouds, it comes straight through. Deeper down, you know, it's really negated, but in those shallower conditions where there's a bit of light on it, when there's not too much light, it really does well. Goes from a 1/4 ounce all the way through to 1 ounce. And not only does it have that neat finish to go and help you, it's also got a lovely little short shank there. And what I love about that is it means that all the sizes of lures that we have in the Z-Man range fit on it really well. It's also got the big ribs here. It holds them on better, stops them from being pulled down. I see people trying to use them on competitors' lead heads, and the Z-Man simply get pulled off because that ribbing isn't big enough. So you've got to have that. So as I say, important to have that short shank, and the hook is really important as well. What I find is that if it's too big, when the fish come up and they grab the soft bait, they tend not to grab the point as well, and so you get this bit of a pull and then off because they've grabbed only the soft bait and nothing else, and they've hung on for a bit and then they've let it go. So if you're having a lot of problems like that, it generally means that your hook is too big. It often means too that the fish are actually too small. So those are two things to look for. This is a 3-bar and I find that's absolutely spot on. It's also strong enough to pretty much land anything that I know of. I've caught kingies to 24, 25 kilos on those, huge snapper, and they're really rust resistant as well. However, not everyone is convinced that you can use that little short shank in a long lure, such as say the Z-Man 7-inch and even 10-inch. So for those people who want coverage further back, we've got the long shank one, and it's made purely to accommodate those longer lures. How we tie these on, ideally you should tie them with a loop knot, and I find that it just allows a little bit of extra movement. But again, if you tie loop knots, it tends to pay not to go and lift the fish by the trace onto the boat, because what you'll find is that it tends to wear the bottom of the loop. Instead, either grab a hold of the jig head or net them on instead. If they're undersized, of course, that's not such a big deal. Light bulbs come in 3 different colours: green, pink, blue. Light bulbs, fantastic, simple, and yet so much thought has gone into them, and they really work. I really love them.